Hey, MCE crew. So the Biden administration is going to keep one of their major campaign promises, and that is to raise taxes.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Look, in many ways, the country is in a situation where, just if you look at the macroeconomic principle of it, as the dollar continues to not only lose value, but remember, the dollar is the world's reserve currency. So the dollar has been losing value steadily, okay, as we print more and more money. But of late, we have really accelerated the decline of the perception and the cachet of the dollar because we've chosen to weaponize it. And by we, I mean Joe Biden. I would have never done this if I were your president, okay? But Joe Biden's administration has chosen to weaponize the dollar and in the form of sanctions that you've seen them use against Russia and this whole Ukraine thing. They've even slapped some on China because China refused to condemn Russia. It's not like China joined the conflict or is sending weapons to Russia. They just refused to condemn Russia. And so the U.S. said, hey, we're sanction happy. Go ahead, put some sanctions on China. So you're economically antagonizing the two, largest competitors to us, okay, militarily and economically, and you expect this to end well. Well, again, from that macroeconomic standpoint, when the dollar loses that value, as we've seen accelerating, then what has to happen is, as the closer and closer we fall, or the further and further away we fall from being the world's reserve currency, the more taxes are going to have to be raised. The more inflation is going to go up if we keep operating like we are operating. And I see no reason to think that we wouldn't, Democrat or Republican president, Congress, whatever. They're not going to give up the power that comes with having the world's reserve currency, even if it is declining. Now, what they are going to do, Biden administration is going to do, is they're going to raise taxes. So right now, 2022, Tax Freedom Day is April 18th. What does that mean? That means that if you were to say, hey, look, I'm just going to work, I want to get 100% of my money at some point and not pay the federal government any taxes. So I'm going to work from January 1st to whenever and pay all that money to the IRS. And then after that, I'll be free and clear and I'll be able to get 100% of my money. Well, if you did that, you'd be working from January 1st through April 18th, okay? So more than a quarter of the year, you would work just to pay your federal taxes if you did that. That's what Tax Freedom Day is. It's April 18th this year. So Biden is probably, with these new taxes he's implementing, is probably going to push that back somewhere into late April, okay? And here's the other thing. The taxes are not, they're going to tell you if you watch the news. I don't watch the news, but I read enough to kind of get the gist of, well, to get more than the gist. I'm doing better than a lot of people who are watching the news. I had this back and forth the other day with a friend of mine, good friend, great friend, who was totally misaligned, did not have the facts around January 6th, okay? And I just educated him. He said, police officers died as a result of that. So no, buddy. No police officer died on January 6th. 2 police officers did commit suicide in the days after, and 1 police officer died the next day. The federal medical examiner ruled that due to natural causes. And those are simply facts, okay? You can be mad at the facts if you want, but they remain facts. So I say that to say, if you're watching the news, they're saying Biden is going to stick it to the wealthy. He's going to stick it to the rich. He's going to show the evil rich that, I don't know, and you can't mess around with Joe Biden, or he's going to tax you. Whatever the excuse may be, I need people to understand that just because the rich are being taxed does not mean that it's going to put more food on your table. It's going to increase the equity in your home, okay? It's going to somehow boost your retirement account. Doesn't mean that at all. So when they come out with this emotional, it's like a play on emotions, and they come out and say, we're going to stick it to the rich. They want you to hate the rich, even though the rich, you're working for a rich person, okay? If you have a W-2 job, you're working for a rich person. If you got your own business, you're trying to become a rich person, okay? So, no, I don't, the rich are just like everybody else. You got good people among them, and you've got terrible people among them, okay? Now, I'll tell you what the rich also have that many people don't. Because many of the rich are business owners, they have more access to aspects of the tax code that can mitigate their tax obligation, okay? But you don't need to be rich in order to avail yourself of these portions of the tax code. If you own a business, then you're going to get more opportunities to mitigate your taxation than you would if you were just deriving income as a result of W-2 employment, okay? And the reason for that is because the government wants people to go out there and start businesses and employ people so that it will perpetuate the economy. Okay, so you've never gotten a job from a poor person. Sticking it to the man has never once done anything positive for your economic situation. It may have done something negative if the rich decided, well, we're not going to employ as many people. Okay, so, there was a contraction there. So the emotional appeal of stick it to the rich is part and parcel of the manipulation of the American public, and to a large extent the public, the global public at large, but especially here in America. In America, everybody wants to be rich, but nobody, likes rich people. That's a pastime, hating the rich. So what we want to do is put ourselves in a position where we can legally avoid a lot of the taxation that is inevitable. It's coming, okay? And you can best believe, because somebody asked me a really good question. They said, look, what's to stop the federal government from drafting legislation that would take away the tax advantages of owning a properly structured permanent life insurance policy? What is to stop them from just taking that away? Here's what will stop them from taking it away. You got to understand that the U.S. Senate is composed by a lot of millionaires, okay? You got to be pretty wealthy to be a United States senator, okay? All right. They're not going to do anything that hampers their ability to achieve and maintain financial independence. And if you want proof of that, look at what Nancy Pelosi is saying about, look at what she has said about insider trading. We've done videos on that. And she's basically said that Congress is going to maintain its ability to prosecute insider trades, basically. To trade on the information that they get as a result of being in the know, a U.S. congressperson. All right. Now, if you go out there and you do that, okay, you're standing at the water cooler and, the CEO came by and mentioned, hey, can't wait till tomorrow. We're gonna merge with XYZ, and, Elon Musk is buying us and we're going to make it big. And then you go out there and trade on that information, you are going to the Martha Stewart wing of the nearest federal prison. All right. But Congress can do it. So they're never going to write into law any legislation that hurts their pockets. So that should tell you part of your plan should be observing what they do. Let's get into exactly what Biden wants to do. And let me also prove to you that this is not just targeted at the rich. It's targeted at you too. All right. They start with the rich and then it trickles down from there. Because after you let them in, after you open the door wide and say, come on in here and get these rich people, then eventually they get everybody. As tax day approaches, remember, April 18th, the millions of people struggling to pay their taxes need to know something, namely that President Joe Biden is proposing massive tax hikes in his new budget. Biden claims he's only raising taxes for giant corporations and the wealthiest people. But in truth, Biden is calling for dozens of tax hikes that would hit our entire economy. He wants an incredible $2.5 trillion in new taxes. $2.5 trillion in new taxes. Nearly $1 trillion taxed and targeted taxes toward individuals. And then he wants $1.6 trillion for businesses. Now you think by when I say businesses, you think Microsoft, Amazon. But when they say business, they think Microsoft, Amazon, mom and pop store, real estate agent, insurance agent, financial services professional, sole proprietor. That's what they're thinking. Okay, everybody. Total federal taxes as a share of the economy would increase to 19.1%, well above the 17.2% average over the last 50 years. We do a presentation where we talk about generational wealth to clients and prospective, to people who are thinking about starting a financial services business. And in that presentation, we show you that since 1913 to now, we're actually now in a low tax environment based on what the top tax rates have been throughout the life of the income tax starting in 1913. We're in a very low era. So I think it's an anomaly. I think taxes are going up because we've had them up in, other decades. I had them up in the 50s, top tax rate was 90%. Okay. So we are going to start seeing taxation hit levels that many of us have never, ever witnessed, okay? Many of us have never seen. We'd have to look at a history book in order to inform us about it. All right, corporate tax receipts would increase 35% above the modern average. Now, when they talk about taxing business, this hits you twice. Because if your taxes are raised as an individual or as a small business, you know that these larger businesses are going to pass on their taxation to the customer. So on top of inflation, you're going to see them also pad those prices to absorb that taxation shock. Biden's corporate tax rate increases would force U.S. companies to pay a higher tax rate than China's 25% rate. This would hit 1.4 million small businesses. All right? So again, we ain't talking about the big boys out here, Tesla, JP Morgan. We're talking about all of us in some way, shape, or form. Biden also wants to raise individual tax rates. Now we're talking about the W-2 employee, including an 82% increase in the maximum tax on capital gains and dividends. Now, you're out there purchasing stock, and you want that stock to grow for you. That's part of your plan to achieve financial independence. Biden's saying that he's going to increase the maximum tax on capital gains. So when you sell that stock, it'll be more expensive for you. You will get less money, and increasing the tax on dividends. Now that one, you don't even have to sell the stock. You can have those dividends reinvested, which is what I like to do, into buying more shares of stock. You're not taking those dividends to do anything other than that, okay? And he wants to increase taxation on that as well, all right? So again, eroding your ability to build financial independence, unless you act, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Biden proposes to tax unrealized gains at death. The unrealized capital gains tax, a tax that would hit the heirs of family farms and family-owned businesses. He is proposing billions of dollars of tax increases on energy producers. Who you think they're passing that on to? The customer, you. Despite the need to produce new energy to lower gas prices. Let me go back real quick. And this article talks about a capital gains, unrealized capital gains tax at death. But we already did the video talking about the one that they want to implement while you're here, alive. Okay, so they're targeting everything and everybody. Despite all these new tax increases, federal budget deficits will continue to soar, averaging $1.4 trillion a year for the next 10 years. All right, so there are no plans. They're going to tax you heavily, but there are no plans to cut spending. Go and read some of the transcripts of what Biden has been talking about, and you'll see that he is talking about spending more and more and more and more foreign aid, giving money away to other countries and just, grab bag type stuff. He's acting as if we all have some pipeline to a Ukrainian natural gas company, and that we all are making money on the side as board members of Burisma, okay? And it's just simply not true. He only knows one individual personally, at least one, his son, that is doing that. These Biden tax increases would add another layer of cost to every sector of our economy, leading to higher prices, lower wages, and fewer jobs. They should be rejected. We'll see. It's not going to happen if this is delayed somehow, but they got to pass the budget before the next election. So we'll see what happens. But the trend is for taxes to increase. All right. Now, what can you do? We talked about the way to take a portion of your money out from under the threat of taxation and using an insurance policy to do that. Hillary Clinton is famous she's one of the people that actually let you know she was doing this, setting up insurance policies in order to pass on her and Bill's wealth to Chelsea Clinton and her kids. Okay, and when that wealth passes on under the guise of an insurance policy, it will not be taxed. But there's also, you have to, and I talk about this a lot, and I want to be a broken record on it because you got to internalize this. There are ways for you to sidestep taxation legally by putting money that has already been taxed now, at a time when the tax rates are lower, putting that money into an insurance policy. Yes, an insurance policy. Okay. You learned that insurance was all about death and, no, actually the death benefit is almost ancillary when you think about what you can do with an insurance policy you own today while you are living. So putting that money in that's already been taxed, the federal government of the United States of America, because rich people like senators take advantage of this, they allow you to enjoy tax-free growth. You can access your money tax-free if you do it right. And you can also distribute the money to your heirs tax-free. That's all in an insurance policy. There's one other vehicle, the HSA, that allows some of that. But you got to be careful with an HSA because that's predicated on medical expenses. You got to be very careful when you do that. You have to research that and do your due diligence and talk to your people about it. So there are ways to protect a portion of your wealth from this pernicious taxation and also have that wealth continue to grow outside of this taxation regime. Okay. It's called 72E. The tax code, Internal Revenue Code 72E, allows the money in one of these vehicles to grow tax-free. It's growing tax-free. You can access it without taxation, and you can distribute it without taxation. That's an insurance policy, guys. Okay. That's one of, there are a couple of other variations out there, but the insurance policy gives you the most bang for the buck in terms of, total tax protection. All right, guys. I will talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.